last time I worked on the platform layer, I can't remember where I left off, but I've definitely made progress since then. So I wish I knew where I left off. But basically what's happened is I've got file stuff working in a completely different way. And I'm not sure if it's a good idea or not. It could be totally bonkers. It could be a totally wrong idea. I have a second idea that I want to try if this first one doesn't pan out. Uh, but let me describe what I've got so far, because that'll help me figure out what I want to do next. Basically, what I wanted to do was get down the number of functions in this struct here. But there's a secondary concern with file loading specifically, because I think that these are about as small as this set is about as small as it could get. This might be reducible. I don't know. I'll have to take a separate look at that soon. But this is getting pretty much to the point where it can't get any smaller. I bet I could get if I work on file list stuff, I could probably get rid of free memory completely. But like this has to be in line on time. This isn't really worth. I mean, if that's always the same, I want to take a look and see. I bet I could just pass this as data as a parameter and get rid of that, right? So that's not a big deal. I'll look into that. But this one I definitely need to keep. It's just, do I need to keep a system? Because right now what's happening is this function allocates memory, and I actually have it up right here, I guess, because I was looking at it at some point. And it actually allocates memory itself, and then the user who called this has to make sure to free the block of memory that they got from that. I don't really like that, so I think maybe that needs to go still. And like I said, I could get rid of that, so I could probably get rid of 2 more functions here, and I would be really happy with that, getting the files down to just that. But I do want to take a quick moment to explain where the files are too, because I might also want to run a separate experiment on the files, right? So what I ended up doing with files was I said that there's basically I've already introduced for the threads the idea that there's some memory that's used to exchange information back and forth. In the case of threads, that's where like jobs got pushed on a work queue, and then there's the thread pool that was like reading from that thread pool, or reading from that queue. And that's all contained in the exchange info now. I don't think these 2 are contained in exchange, but it wouldn't really be any good to do them in exchange, because the whole point of exchange is, like, if you don't rely on any operating system facilities to do something, if you can just, in the portable part of the language, if you can just do the work there, as long as you have access to, like, through memory, then you can avoid calling back into the system layer. So, point is, that was the exchange for that, and the exchange for files is basically set up now and working. Let me run it again just to be sure, but I'm pretty sure I have it working at this point. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was just messing with being able to save as well. Okay, so there's an issue. That says behind OS. So let's work on that. That shouldn't say behind OS, because the behind OS message means that it thinks that the file I have here is not up to date with what's on the operating system's like disk, right? That the operating system could provide a new version of the file, but that's not true. It just hasn't somehow updated the time for this file correctly. And so that could be a problem with my time functions. That could be a problem with how I'm checking time functions. That could be all kinds of things. So I want to take a look at that. So this gets the timestamp of the file. That's at the last system write time. And then when it goes to render the file, okay, so what I want to see is that. Okay, so what we just did was we wrote the file. I hit Control S to save the file, and now I want to see. Yeah, that's a huge difference actually. Maybe I should flip it around, and they are unsigned after all, so that could just be a result of it's still big. So it took the last system write time, which is this, and compared it to that. Well, I want to take a look at what happens when I save. Okay. Save. Huh, that's weird. Save. I'm not seeing... Okay. Okay, that's weird, but alright. I must have lost track of a breakpoint in my head at some point. Okay. File save. Okay, so yeah, so that other file save is just like, that's a delayed action, that's not being triggered in this case. I'm not sure what does trigger that one, but not this apparently. File synchronized times. Whoops. Let's take a look at that again. Stamp. Oh, okay, I get it. I get it. So what I want to do is I need to make sure to synchronize times whenever oh, here it is. So whenever I do it, whenever a save is completed, exchange free file. Yes. Interesting. So because of the fact that I want to be able to save a file offline from the rest of the execution, like I say, save this, and I provide the data I want saved where I want it saved, and I just keep going past that. I don't actually wait for the save to happen. That means that when it actually checks the time when the file got saved, it's later than that file synchronization time, right? Right now what I'm doing is upon saving, I'm synchronizing files, so syncing, no, that's not useful at all. File view, synchronize times, there it is. So when I call this, I'm assuming it's right after I save the actual file. Right, and that isn't useful anymore because at this point it used to be true that right here the save happened and that was that, and you never had to do anything else to make sure that the synchronize happened at the right moment. But really what happens is so you post that you want to save something, it goes to work saving that, but it doesn't save right away. There's no point in synchronizing times here really, because what the synchronization of times does is it says, well, there's 3 variables, and let me remind myself what they do individually. There's the last time we wrote to the file, there's the last time we edited the file, and there's the last time the system detected a file write. Right? The last time there was a system level file write. And synchronize says we just did a system level file write, so let's just set all of those 3 things to the current timestamp. But then at a later time, the system actually does the write. You know, so then when it goes to check for the time the file was written, it's after, and that's where it thinks the file has gotten ahead of us, but it hasn't. So what we need to do is we need to say whenever we go to do a save, whenever the actual save happens, well, first of all, you probably want to check the timestamp of the file before the save happens, which is kind of nasty. You could just say that there's a risk there and it can happen that you overwrite something else that wrote to that file within that 33 milliseconds. So then the question is, assuming we could just allow to do that write, how do I know once that write happens, I have to have something that marks and says, hey, redo the file sync, but the trick is, what if I have a function, what if I write a command that says save this and then close the file? It can post the save, and the save will go through. It's designed so that the save still works even though the file gets closed, and it can still happen even after the file has been closed. But then that means when it goes to do the sync, it has to go, oh, the file doesn't exist, we don't sync now. Like, we don't need to do the sync, which is kind of interesting. I've been starting to think that one thing I need that I don't have is a really solid idea of the name of a file, and not in terms of the file name that the operating system uses, but just a unique name for a file while it's in existence, and then once it's closed, that unique name never gets used again, so that you can say, oh, this file has closed, it no longer exists. But like, you always have a live set of files, and every time you open a new file, you would just increment your counter or something and say, this is the nth file we opened. And then once that file is closed, the n is never used for that file's name again, and then you could solve this problem. But the question is this a system level problem? And I don't think it is. This is an application, like, I would just have to fix some stuff in the application level to make that work. So yeah, let's take a look at what that takes. Basically, what I have here is I've got to look at the binding, right? let's see, I need the file ID. So that's like okay. And then what I want to do is whenever we finish a save. So for now, this isn't actually the right thing, because I'm just getting sort of the index to the file. And as I said, it could be that like the same index gets used for two different files because you close one and you open a new one in the same index. But for the chance to happen within the time it takes for a save to complete, there's no way for like it's safe for now, but it's kind of wrong. So I'm gonna do this, and I don't really feel like what I want to work on right now is this file naming issue, because that's like an application design situation, it doesn't have anything to do with the boundary between the application and the system. It's just it's a feature of the system of the code itself, or a feature the application code needs. I don't feel like working on that because I'm trying to just solidify this system boundary. But it would look something like this if I was doing it correctly. I would look at the binding file ID, which would then get me the file I need somehow. So it's like get file binding file ID, and that one goes get file working set Alright, take the file now, and when I get that file, then I want to do file synchronize times on the file. You also need a pointer to system. Jeez, oh Pete, what is this function taking? File synchronize. Huh. That's bizarre. Okay, well, I'm going to get mine from file, editing, file, source path dot string. Brilliant, okay. So, yeah. The other thing I need to do is when I get that file, if the file, what's this term? I can't remember. Rec file and if file buffer good. Okay. If buffer good and not dummy, then synchronize times. So that basically says make sure we got a good file. Now what I'd actually like to do there is say if we got a file pointer and have the get file routine take care of the nulliness. So that's if result state buffer good and not dummy, then the result equals 0. Alright, let's see. I need to run that, first of all. Save. It's still not working. Okay. That's okay, though. It could have failed for all sorts of reasons. So I want to take a look and see if we're actually synchronizing the times when I want to be synchronizing the times. Oh, the times, how they be synchronizing. Okay, didn't get a file pointer. That's unexpected. Okay, set files +1. It's not a dummy. Tell me the buffer isn't good? Buffer is good. Oh, I got that backwards. Got that logic backwards. If it is not good, or if it is a dummy. Okay. There we go. Okay. So that concern is solved. And then the more proper thing to do will be that this app ID here won't be just the index, it'll be like a rolling counter. So that code there actually doesn't change at all. It's how I bind files to IDs. So it's actually the code in here that changes, but that's something that's needed to happen for forever. So let's see, what is next? Hey, Petey Daddy. I'll catch up because it looks like there's a lot of new people in there, so I'll go ahead and recap what I'm working on. I've been working on solidifying what I want the system layer to look like. I've been trying to simplify it. It's down from, this used to have like 9 functions here, and 7 here, and 2 here, and or something like this, right? Maybe it was 2 here, I don't know. But it's definitely, I've been paring this down, and I've just now worked out a small bug involving timestamps on files, and that's pretty good. I want to take the next thing I want to do is I want to take a look at this system here, because I bet I can get the layer to be even simpler, which will be great. But there's also some other stuff I want to look into, like how I'm handling files is maybe not great, but in the exchange layer, there might be a better way to do file exchange that I've thought of, but or that I'd at least like to experiment with. But before I get to that, there's one thing I can definitely log down, which is this get file list thing, and this get current directory thing. I think that we can simplify this set of stuff, and then this will be getting really, really simple. Okay. So let's take a look at this get current directory situation, because I suspect that is the least useful out of every one of these functions. Because this information here should be something I can get once at the beginning of the this is something I should be able to get at the beginning of the program and just keep it. Before I do that, Keeper Caleb asks, how does thread memory work? And I suspect I know why you're asking. But it's not like magic. It's not that I have the ability to grow memory, which isn't something you're normally able to do or anything like that. It just means I allocate more space and I move the old stuff into the new stuff. So it's like I get a new size, which is at least twice as big as the old size, allocate the space, copy in the old stuff, free the old memory, and that's that. And it's all locked so that you'd never, while you're doing this, the thread can't be canceled. So it's not like the magic solution to all memory problems. And yeah, it would mess up pointers that point to it, but pointers aren't allowed to point to it. It's private to the thread. And then you just gotta make sure you write thread memory to never do pointers to itself. Like, always do everything as indices. But basically all code that I write avoids pointers, because like all of the lexing code does it by an index off of a base pointer. Everything works off of an index from a base pointer, for the most part. There are pointers here and there, like obviously there's function pointers. You can see a bunch of them on the left hand screen right now, but that isn't relevant. Okay, anyways, I want to look at get current directory. Emacs, shut up. Why do we always go through this little song and dance every time I want to search for something? Get current directory. Well, Keeper Caleb, I didn't say I don't. I guess I said I don't use pointers, but I mean I don't really store pointers, is what I should say. I don't have pointers that I use a pointer when it's the right thing to use, but it's usually not the right thing to use for like referring to here's where a thing is. Okay, so this right here, I was saying, I don't think I actually need, because I think I should be able to just get this once, and Yeah, it looks like the only time it gets used is right here anyways. Where does this function get used, I wonder? In one spot here in the init function, I'm guessing. Yeah, okay, so here's the plan. We're not going to have that as a function anymore. It's not going to be a thing, because why would you need data to be passed through a function that way? It doesn't make sense. Pass your data in through the argument, not in through a callback, in through the return of a callback. That doesn't make sense. Don't do that. So, let's see. Hot directory init. File view. There it is. Get current directory. Cuber Caleb, the way Handmade Hero deals with memory in threads, as far as I remember, is that it just doesn't ever have it never starts a job without knowing how much memory it needs. Which isn't true for me. Like, when you lex a file, you don't know how many tokens you're going to end up needing, and so you can kind of guess, but you don't know for sure. And so I needed to have a way to say this thing might run out of memory, and then it's either like, oh, whenever you load a big file, you just fail, or you grow the memory. Append the slash hot directory string dot size. Okay, so the plan will be, first of all, let's push this out one step. I'm going to be honest, this code doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Where does this string base come from, for instance? Hotdir base. String equals base. I really don't like that. I don't know why I had such a sloppy taste in code. This has got to be some of the oldest code in whenever I look at something that confuses me this much, I always tell myself this must be some of the oldest code in the project now. Hot directory string size, directory size. String, wait, what's it called? Copy into hot directory string dir, and then there's that'll be fine. So those two are the places where hot directory base gets mentioned, and there we go. Okay, so that can go, because that's just a hot mess. There's the base memory for the hot directory. We'll just pass that in directly in the future down here. So hot dir base. No one needs you. Hot directory. HD base. And then we just need like okay, so you can go away, and then get current directory. What basically needs to happen at this point is the app init needs to be expanded. And what I just did was I said pass it in as like a string right here, right? Current directory. Not in love with that, because what if I want more parameters in the future? Fair enough. That's a bit strange to see. What I should do here actually is win32 get memory. Just a little better that way. Now I need get current directory required equals get current directory 0, 0. Whatever. Let's see. Current directory equals get current directory required and current directory. Right, and then what I can do is I go, here's the current directory equals make string current directory mem required current directory. Alright, let's see. Okay, it's definitely screwed up, so that's good. It'll be easiest for me to solve this if I just walk through it from 1238. Okay. Man, Fabian linked to what I was going to work on today on GitHub before I even worked on it. That's Insabot is the only person who can like keep up with such incredible events, right? Okay, so now the string, well, still wrong. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Awesome. Yep, that looks better. So we can just write that function right off kind of for free. Current directory. Oops. Not bad. That's smaller than the last time I checked. I wonder what all I've killed to lead to that. Okay, system.h. Get current, let's see, system functions. Okay, down to 3. And like I said, I think I can get rid of free memory completely, because the only thing free memory is used for anymore is freeing the block returned by this in 2 different places. Right, so here and here, it frees the memory block from free list. But what I want to do is I want to rewrite that function so that it doesn't do memory system side allocations. That way you don't need to do system side freeze, and then we're down another function. So let's take a look at get file list. So right now what this does is you pass in a directory, and it says, well, first it figures out changes the string around, gets a path that it can work with the extra slash star after it. Excuse me. It starts a search, and at each step of the search, it's counting how many items there are and getting the size of each item. So we end up with a count and a file count. Closes the search, and then it does some memory allocation, which is based on the amount of string space it needed plus the number of pointers it's going to need, or the number of file info structs it's going to need to fill. And then it sort of lays those 2 things out next to each other, with the block being the thing that can free that later. Then it starts to search again, does the list across the files, doing the same exact ifs even, so that's kind of nasty. More files. Do while there are more files. Do while there are more files. And let's see. So if gets the next file and then keeps checking them all, filling them in. So this part right here actually fills out the whole structure, and this one up here counts how many items are going to be in the structure. Right there it does the allocate. Now there's 2 things I could do. I could say we want to punch a hole right here in the system, right? I'm going to punch this out because I want that to be on the application side. And I'll let the application allocate the memory that it's going to provide based on, like, I'll return the size that I think I need, and maybe I return a struct that's got a size and as well as these 2 counts separately. That way I can use those counts, because I bet those get used again down here, right, or something like this. File count. Hard to say for sure, but it definitely seems like maybe I could push that through here. Something would have to happen, and then I just have 2 functions for getting a file list, or I have one function, and if I provide memory to that function, it fills the file list. If I don't provide memory, it returns, it does the like count stage. Alternatively, I could just say, here's how much memory you get, hopefully it's enough, and if it's not enough, I don't know, burn down in flames, which doesn't sound great. If it's not enough memory, ask for more. I don't know. Not sure. How much would be always enough is a one question to ask. And we know that there's like no real limit on how many files are in one directory, but the witness team, what did they said they discovered that like 10,000 was, you didn't really want to go over that for performance reasons. And then what's the max path? The max path is huge, isn't it like a kilobyte or something? That's way too big, so I can't make sure that I provide enough memory to always work. I could provide enough memory to get as many things as possible and then say, hey, I'll come back to you again, but I don't really like to have that sort of, like this right here does something like that too, where you have a begin, update, end, and it's kind of a, it seems nice, but there's reasons I don't want to do that here. I'd rather just sort of say, fill this memory up with the information that I need. Alternatively, we could always say there's only one of these, and so at any given time you can just say, hey, discard whatever you have and load a new thing, and I'll read out of it. It wouldn't be thread safe, but if you just said the only thread, whoever does this is the main thread, no one else gets access to this, that's fine. And then there's only ever one of them. It can grow as big as it needs to be, so if it does need to be this gigantic amount, it can grow to that size, but otherwise it stays where it was. And then it always, there's no memory leak, because every time you go to get a new thing, the old thing gets discarded right then. That seems like it would lead to unexpected behavior at some point. Seems like the easiest thing to do is to just punch this one line out and try to keep the rest of it operating the same. Seems like the easiest thing to do. I really don't want to do the idea I had, like I'm thinking about it. Let me pull this up real quick. File list. Yeah, I think if I go here and look for information on file list, directory file list, bing, 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 file view, whoops, no, file list, get file list, bing, bing. I swear I had like an iterator across these things. Ding, 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 ding. Okay. Where else might I have that? can you grep? Well, of course it's not. I was relying on Emacs to provide that. Alright, well, where's an example of iterating across these? That's the next thing I should... Jeez, oh Pete. Emacs. Why do you and I have so much friction right now? What happened to my old Emacs foo? It used to be stronger. The CD mode import. Yes. So, do file list box. Ding. Info does not equal end. Interesting. So it looks like the iteration is just happening by iterating over the array of infos, at least right now. So I'm curious about all the places where that shows up. Huh. Start, mid, pivot, quick partition, comp equals 0, comp equals compare the file names if comp is less than 0. Right, okay. So that's actually a really great argument for why I have to do it as a data protocol. Okay. Okay, so that means I'm gonna go with timestamp. Just move things around. System file, so that gets a file's timestamp. Posts to the clipboard. Gives me the time. Free file list should be gone. File timestamp. System functions. Yeah, okay. So get file list. Right now it takes the string of the directory that it wants to get the list for. I'm going to say it doesn't return a file list anymore. That's not how it works. It returns an I32 if it returns anything, and it takes the list that it's going to fill right there. And this will add a block size too. Yes. System get file list. Sys get file list sig internal systime sig. There we go. Just want to fix a few of these because I never did convert to using this thing completely. Sys file timestamp sig as a part of that like ruthless not cleaning up anything. Alright. So now everything on screen is clean, so that's good. I'll stay and fix all of them. Save file is actually an internal thing, so that's just got to be renamed. This has just got to be, well, actually that's a separate whole situation I have to deal with at some point. Hopefully this won't actually be around for long, but there it is. System load save. Post clipboard sig. Whoops. Post clipboard. There we go. System underscore get thread ID. I don't think we need that, right? Thread current job, don't need that. Do need sys post job. Just acquire lock. Sys release lock. Sys cancel job. Cancel job. It's a group ID thing. Alright, getting there. Sys CLI call. Uh-oh. System.h. CLI call. Path, script name, CLI out. Okay. Sys CLI begin update sig. sys CLI update step sig. Let's take a look here. Update step CLI dest max amount. System sys CLI end update sig. Alright, now it's this one. Okay, that's weird. Did I just convert that one over? Yes, I probably did. Alright. Now, that is not the result. No. What we should actually do is say that that's like the file list. Well, let me take a look. Yes, so the file list would be that pointer there. So if that's the file list that we're filling out, then here's like, I'll just call it list. And everywhere in between, we'll replace the word result with the word list. Now the actual result is going to be of type I32. And what will happen is we care about whether or not we've got the file list or if we don't have the file list. And if we do or don't have the file list, that will determine what everything else does. So, one thing we absolutely always do is this header work here. Okay. And then we take some counts, do some stuff. This is where I thought we would end up. I said it initially. Okay. I'm going to undo all this because I've just come up with a new plan for figuring out what I need to do. I'll redo everything I didn't mean to undo. I thought there was a lot more in the buffer than there was, apparently. Okay. Okay, so there's 2 uses of free memory, 2 uses of get file list, and that is all that I need to clear up. So, the question to ask myself now is how would I want to write this code here? What is the thing that I actually want to do? Okay. So the first thing it's doing there is attempting to copy into this little buffer here. Hopefully it's got enough memory. Alright, okay, I see what we're doing. So this is all about setting the hot directory to a new current place. If we've had success so far, okay. System free memory, file system get file list, fix up. Okay, so what that's actually about is just get file list. Yeah, so set file list. From there. Perfect. Okay, now I see it. Now I know for sure. You two are on your way out. And instead of that, what I want is yeah, that's what I was worried about. Okay. Alright, and instead of result, what'll happen here will be very similar actually to what I've already got, which makes my life easier. It's just that I'm now replacing all instances of result dot with file list arrow. Alright, I'm gonna run it. Hopefully it works. Cool. Alright, I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick, and when I come back I'll determine whether or not I want to continue. Back. So, let's take a peek at the time. It says 6:18 p.m. That's less than 2 hours away from Handmade Hero. Only a little over 1 hour of streaming for me so far. I'm wondering if there's anything I can do in about 10 or 15 minutes. Alright, so that's basically a tiny little thing I just fixed there, but that's if I were to switch to using the manual DLL loader, it would work again. Alright, I'm trying to decide. I don't really know. I feel pretty satisfied with this system function count. Like I maybe am just being satisfied too soon. There's still the CLI question to look into, but I know that that's pretty tight. I'm not sure. I don't know if I know that topic well enough to do any better than this, which is kind of scary because if I start locking in this platform layer by porting it, then kind of want it to be correct. So I guess I should look into that. Alright, so when you do a CLI call, you provide a path and a script name, and then the handles come out here, and this tells you whether it succeeds or not, I guess. If you do, whenever you want to update that, so your pipe, basically things are being piped to you, in terms of Windows they're being piped to you. I don't know if pipes are what this is called everywhere. But in Windows it's called a pipe. And so you say you're going to begin, and then that you like mark, I'm going to read everything that's in the pipeline right now. You read it by updating at each step until you've gotten all the memory, and then you end and you say, alright, continue to like buffer up new messages. I'm wondering if that's all. Like, I don't really want to have the ability to terminate these. Begin, update, and I wonder if I should just be getting this memory in the platform side rather than writing the loop on the app side. You know what I'm saying? Why should am I completely certain that I want to write this loop on the app side? What is the advantage to that? Out of file. Whenever I'm updating a child process, what I'm currently doing is I go across each process, I get the out file. If out file. That seems like a dumb question, because if not out file, then this is already failing, right? So like, that seems dumb. And so you take in some text and you convert it in. My question to myself is, what would this look like if it were on the system side? And the answer is, I would do pretty much the same thing. It's just that I would have to buffer up a large piece of, like, I'd read in a bunch of stuff and buffer it up into a chunk without processing it all. And then this wouldn't be looping across the begin update thing. It would EOL convert in one whole chunk at once and process it thusly. And then when it came here, instead of doing this for loop, it would just be sort of more like system CLI you see, this would end up being exactly the same anyway, because the only other option is that you just say, yeah, I think that this is probably not going to get any tighter than this. So I just saw Abner Coinbase say he uses auto, move semantics, and lambdas, hence C++11. But I use neither semantics nor lambdas, and I'm not even sure if this particular codebase has. I guess I'm not the one that he means to talk about. I have auto once in the entire codebase, so it is C++11. But I do not think that it was supposed to be about me, so I can just ignore that. Yeah, I don't think I can do any better with the CLI stuff, especially not given my level of understanding of CLI. So I don't know if I can do anything else to get rid of functions now. I think that's basically as tight as it's gonna get. Because this would be exactly the same as just who actually, like, do we actually read from the pipe in that function or not. It doesn't even matter. Like, the person who implements the platform layer can decide that. This interface would still be necessary. Yeah, yes, yep, definitely. So I think that's as good as it's going to get. So the next thing I have to do is I want to experiment a little bit more with how the file types work. Like I said, I've got a current exchange system for file data, but I've like to consider maybe I'd like to consider maybe doing a different method. Right now what I'm doing is I just have a fixed chunk of files, and then what I can do is I can pass information back and forth through those like file slots and say, hey, I want to load into this file slot this file, and then the system looks at that and goes, oh, they want me to load this file, and then it launches the loader, or it does the loader inline. Somehow it gets the file loaded, and then once the file is done loading, it marks that slot and says, this file is now ready to be used. So you can see how you could either do that as inline or as, when I say inline, I mean like inline in time, not in the like inline in time, so not multi-threaded. Like you could do that synchronously, I guess I should say, or you could do that on a separate thread and then just have that separate thread flip the bit that says, hey, you can use this now, so that when it reads that, it knows that the file is ready for use. But I'm a little not sure if that's the way I want it to go, mainly because it's weird. The other thing I could do is messages based. Like I have a push buffer that I send messages to. The application starts with an empty push buffer and it fills up messages that the platform then reads. And when the platform reads them, it's like, oh, launch a load for this file, launch a load for this file, save this file, etc. And it reads the messages that needs to be done about files. And then once it gets once it's like, okay, this file has just finished being loaded, it pushes a message for this application. You know, as I say it, that sounds hard because if it's multi-threaded, like that's a huge pain in the ass. Compared to what I'm doing, that sounds worse. So maybe I stick with what I've got. Maybe I do. And the system is independent of size, so if I ever just want to be like, hey guys, we're going to scale up how many file slots there are, neither the application side nor the system side really have to do any work. You just put in a new number, which is nice. Whereas with the push buffer thing, you've got to like have two buffers going at the same time so that you can write to one of them. Like it's got to be somehow locked so that you're writing and filling it up from the threads. And then the advantage, I guess, is that unlimited number of file IDs, I guess. Yeah, actually, I think I'm going to go with what I've got. I think that this is pretty much my conclusion of the platform. Oh, wait, there is one more thing I need to look into, and that is the fact that rendering happens on the platform side. Um, it's a platform-dependent piece of the puzzle, and there are a few functions here. Now, there's no way I'm going to reduce that, I don't think. I don't think I can do any better than this either. I mean, the only thing that maybe I could do better on is the font load could, in theory, be application side. But I kind of want to leave the possibility open that I just do operating system fonts. Because I know, like, I was looking at the Emacs source code. I could pull that up for you guys. Right? So I was trying to figure out how do they load fonts, and it turns out that they just, whatever operating system you're on, they go for the operating system font loader. And I really do like Emacs fonts, although the disadvantage is if you do this, then if you have a shitty operating system font loader, like you are on Windows 10 and the font loader screwed up or something, you can't really do anything about that. Like, I'd almost kind of like to say I don't do this ever, just because I want the look of 4coder to be platform independent. So it seems to me like this shouldn't be on the platform side, and the only reason that it is right now is because it involves loading a file and stuff. So really, this is something I want to push into the application side, is I think what I've just discovered. That way I can make it work the same everywhere, without a doubt. Yeah, so of course the thing is if I do that, I I can't ever use free type unless I like still have a font load function that just takes in the data from a file. Yeah, so anyway, if I'm looking at app init fonts, alright, so this right here, ooh, alright, this right here is where I load in fonts, and this has always been a sort of a sore spot that's just sitting here. I load fonts in directly, and what I really need to do here is more like asset streaming kinds of things, right? I want to be able to say I have some fonts and the one that I need is available, or the ones that I need are available, and the ones that I don't need aren't loaded in right now, but lots of them might be like on the list. And so here's a question: if if uh, if you're on a platform and they've got built-in fonts, is there a way to get the font file from or do you have to use can I just get the TTF and look at it myself, or do you have to go through their their API to load the font if you use you know what I mean? Like, say I want one of the fonts that's registered in Windows, and I just want like a list of what are all the registered Windows fonts. Can I get that? Like, am I allowed? Will operating systems generally let me just have access to the TTFs and parse them myself? Well, right now what I do is I ship TTFs with 4coder. And I don't really necessarily want to do that because most applications, when you get it just uses the system fonts. It just has access. And yeah, it's true. I know on Windows you can get the access to the TTFs. I'm just asking in general, like, is it something I can depend on that there's a way to get to the TTF files from every operating system? Like, even if I have to hand code, like on Linux, go to this directory, on Mac, go to this directory. Or do you have to go through their API for font loading to get that stuff? Because that would not be as fun to have to do. Keeper Kill, that's the opposite of what I'm trying to achieve. I'm trying to make it so that the TTFs can be pulled in for free from the operating system. Like, if you have a TTF on your computer that all of your other applications use, I want you to be able to use it. Yeah, I'm guessing just saying, oh, it's on Linux, go here isn't enough because Linux isn't got that kind of stuff together. But if there was even just a function that was like, here's the directory, sounds like Abner Quimbre saying you can't always do that, which is tough. I'd have to know, like, basically if Linux, Windows, and Mac make that easy, then I don't care. Mac would be the one that would most likely not make that easy. It's interesting. Because what I could do is just always have several paths for loading fonts. And it's like, look, if we're in a situation where we can't use registered, like system registered fonts directly, okay, we have PD Daddy here. He can explain for me. So, can you in Mac just say, hey, give me the directory of installed fonts? If we can get to the bare TTF files on the big three operating systems, then I don't really care if I can't do it 100% of the time. We're discussing font loading right now. And basically the question is, can I like make my own font loader, or is it better to go through the operating system font loaders? Because you know, like the thing is the if you recall Windows 10 or Windows 8 or something, apparently Casey was complaining that the font rendering is messed up there. Cool. So it sounds to me like this, based on the research from the chat and the just sort of general knowledge, that for the most part I'll be able to get the access to the TTFs. In general, it's just I don't really like the idea of writing to the operating system. Honestly, writing to the operating system's font rendering seems silly to me. Like we shouldn't be at a point where the operating system provides font rasterization anymore. Like that should just be a thing. Like that's why I'm using STB, and I would either use STB or FreeType. And there's a bunch of different details that basically mean that font load will probably stay here because if I use FreeType, it's got to be here because the DLL can't link directly to FreeType for reasons. And if I go STB completely, I could push this to the application side 100%, and that would be it. But then I couldn't have fallbacks for like, oh, this operating system won't give me access to the TTFs unless I go through their operating system font loader. Insobot agrees with me that rasterizing through an operating system is really weird. Well, anyway, the main problem right now has nothing to do with any of those. Those are just sort of related concerns. So I guess they don't have nothing to do with it, but it doesn't pertain to the decision that I'm about to make, which is how to loosen up the set of fonts that exist at any given time. So how do I want to do this? It's like there's some kind of list of fonts, and that list of fonts has to have some information in terms of the name of the font and where to find the TTF for it at any given time. And then some of those fonts also have the information for here's where I am currently loaded and usable. And then whenever a font is used, if it's not available, you start loading it in, just like the asset streamer in Handmade here. That's kind of what I want to do here, I think. And then there's always the question of where do I have font pointers strewn everywhere for doing or rendering stuffs. And that comes down to how do I identify fonts when I do a rendering step. So I think that'll be the place to start for me. Font ID needs to actually be separate from the font pointer at this point. So step 1 is like that. Push piece. Yep. Okay. So the font needs to come from target fonts plus font ID for now. You can see right here I have a to-do for this exact problem. So we can take that out now. Okay, so drawglyph mono. These are all just pushes, right? Yes, so that just needs to be a font ID. Ew, that's ugly. So we need some kind of way to get the advance of a font from its ID, I guess. For now, the answer is font ID.advance. Yes, this right here is concerning. I mean... Basically, the concern that I have with that is if it, like, drawString itself could be something that you defer. Like, you say, I want to draw a string, push this on the buffer to draw the string, but then you need the widths. Even if you don't have it loaded, you need the widths. Does anyone know how Handmade Hero is doing fonts? I might have glossed over that. Do they have, like, metadata on each glyph available even when the font is not loaded in? Or what's the deal there? Do you just say, like, render at the wrong position and that's that? Font get glyph width, render target target I16 font ID, target fonts font ID dot char data character dot xadvance. Render target I16 font ID, target font ID. Font ID, font, doo-doo. Where should the name be stored? Do I really want it in a font, or do I want a thing that maps names to fonts and fonts back to names as a sort of associative thing, with only one copy of the name floating around? So there's another question, which is, where do font IDs come from? Like, maybe 0 is a null ID. And do I have like an array of valid IDs, or what? Font set extract. It's almost like I want a hash table here. So the font set would be like a hash table, and it would map strings to font IDs. That seems reasonable. Bye, Canucles. Thanks for coming. Let's see, how am I doing on time? Oh, I'm gonna wrap up soon. I'm less than an hour away from Handmade Hero at this point. Alright, so that does a hash. Okay, and then if yeah, next thing I need is a font set add. Might as well keep that preprocessor thing up, because I'm just going to be making another hash table here. CPP hash. Let's see. So first of all, font set can add font set result set count times 8 is less than set max times 7. Result equals 1, else 0. Don't do it that way, that's stupid. Get my hash, get my name pointer, get my font ID. I is the hash modulo the maximum. J is I minus 1. But if I is less than or equal to 1, J gets the entire max added in. Got it. Hash position. Alright, so then I normally do for my hash tables is I do font set find position, font set fonts, call that set now, string name hash ij, hash equals font hash the name, I equals hash modulo set max, j equals I minus 1, if j is less than or equal to 1, j plus equals set max. Okay, got that again. And just like so. Font set, font table entry. Alright. So that's the hash table stuff that I think I need. I equals table max. I equals 0. How is that a problem? Well, you want the word set. Find position is the one I'm looking for. Set entries position dot font ID. There we go. Now the font out should be U, and this should be make string all that stuff. Alright, so obviously these errors go on and on forever until it exceeds 100 and gives up, that is. So I'm gonna call it a day, and I'll keep working on this when I resume programming on my own, or possibly in future streams for in this week. There might be more of this, but anyway, that's all I've got for today. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you guys around.